morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Janice Hooker Fortman coming to you with Relationship Matters TV. I want to welcome all of you, all of you. Now, I hope, and this is just me speaking, I hope that you are getting vaccinated. I hope that you are staying safe. I am here in Chicago, and we're right outside of Chicago, and we are back under a mask mandate. Now, I thought that by now we would be out of our mask, but unfortunately, because there's still some unvaccinated people, we're back in our mask mandate. And it's just so sad to me that so many people who are coming down with COVID-19 are children. So let me say to you out there, even if you don't want it for yourself, think about the fact that you can give it to your child. You could give it to someone else's child. And the worst thing in the world is to see a child being sick. So that's just me. In my opinion, I know there are people in my audience who do not want to get vaccinated for what reason or another. But if you're not, stay safe and help other people to be safe. Now, let's talk about my show today. I have two powerhouse women, and I gotta say it like that. Got to do my neck. Two powerhouse women. One is going to give us so much history. Well, both of them are really, but I am going to bring to you Miss Sasha Daltonn. Now, I know that you have heard that name because when I heard Sasha Daltonn, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. She is a world-renowned musical giant. Now, she is the founder of the Chicago Gospel Festival. Now, some of you out there, or a lot of you out there, are not in Chicago or in Illinois, but this is one of, and has been one of the largest gospel festivals in the world. She is the founder of it. And she is a renowned jazz singer. At least she was when I remember her album. I know she did Sasha Sings Dinah. And you all know I'm old enough to know who Dinah was. That's Dinah Washington. So I'm going to bring her to you. But you know what? I'm going to bring two women on at the same time. The other one is my longtime friend, esteemed political mover and shaker, networker, knows everybody, Loisteen Woods. Now, most of you know that Loisteen and I, if you were on a previous show, grew up in Altgeld Gardens. And that is I guess you would call it, low-income housing? I don't think it is now, but it used to be. And so we are AG for life. And AG for life means we are Altgeld Gardens folks for life. So I'm going to bring both of them on. And I want Loisteen, first of all, to talk about, now Loisteen is the one who suggested that I had to have Sasha Daltonn on. And we're going to find out why. because she's being honored this weekend. So I'm going to bring both of them on at the same time. So here is Lois Dean, here's
Hello.
Sasha.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
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 It's so wonderful to have both of you all on.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. We appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know what, Lois Dean? I want you. Now, I said a little bit about Sasha, but
Hmm.
I want you to fill in the blanks.
About this dynamic woman.
Most definitely.
Yeah, Sasha and I, we met. Well, it's been at least 35 years ago. We met while we were working on the late Harold Washington campaign. And here we are again working on the Mayor Harold Washington campaign.
Right.
We, um, 30 something years after his death. But that's how we met. And when we met, she was doing Sasha Sings Diner. And I love jazz, love the blues, and love all that. So I got the opportunity to see her. Now I saw her do the performance before we started working together on the campaign. So by the time we started working together on the campaign, she, in whatever function she was doing for the campaign, whatever function I was doing for the campaign, I said, "That's Sasha." And so, we struck up a conversation, and from that, we struck up a friendship. And so, I, in the first campaign, I was in the first campaign, I was working for George E. Johnson at Johnson Products Company on the 87th and the Dan Ryan. So I was on loan from the company to work on the Harold Washington campaign. And then in the second campaign, when he for his reelection, by that time I was no longer working for the George E. Johnson, and I was actually working directly for the campaign office. So I was the office manager, one of the office managers for the actual campaign office downtown. And so anyway, I ended up, my husband now of 34 years, Ricky Walker, we were dating, and we were the campaign the campaign couple at that particular time. And so one night we went to, Sasha was singing at, um, was the champagne, what was the champagne
Oh,
thing?
props for
Pops
champagne.
for Champagne, Pops for Champagne up on the north side. And Ricky and I went out to dinner, and he had asked me to marry him. And so I broke the news to Sasha that night, and she sang our congratulatory engagement song. And so if we had had a big wedding or whatever, she would have been part of that. So she's just been a part of my life, big sister, friend, since all of that time. And we've just kept in touch, and we've worked on I don't care how far apart or how long it is we see each other, or how far we end up working on the same project.
Right.
So
Amazing.
now, like I said, I started out people trying to figure out what Harold Washington campaign, and I'm sure Sasha will expound on that. But we are on the committee for the centennial celebration of April 2022 of what would be Harold Washington's 100th birthday. And
Wow.
yeah, so we are on the committee together, and we're responsible for bringing the culmination of the whole year long celebration, and that's what we're working on right now.
Wow. And for you who don't know, who are not in Illinois, Harold Washington was the first Black mayor of Chicago, Illinois. Much loved mayor. And I think it was something that was advertised all over the United States
The
and
world,
The
in the
world.
world. I was going to say,
world.
yeah, the world, the world. And so, Sasha, now, you know what? You sent me your bio, and it's so much. But I want you to just start to talking. And first, I want you to start. Um, well, we know that you grew up in Chicago, and but I want you to start when you decided to be a jazz singer. So I want you to start back there and then just take us on. I've got all kinds of pictures over here. I want, so just talk. Because
Well,
to me,
well,
this is history.
I always wanted. I thought I always wanted to be a singer because I came from a musical family, and actually, my mother's youngest sister was in show business, and her name was Mary Brooks. And when I was a little girl, she and her husband, they had a dance and song team, Mary and Artie Brooks, and they would take me on the road with them when I wasn't in school in the summer and sometimes in the winter and put me in the show. And I thought, oh, I want to do this. Well, I did start singing when I was living in California, and that was in the early 70s. And then I realized being in California, you need to do a little acting too. So I got involved in musical theater. And I guess it was a realization for me that the competition was so much in California, I needed to come back home. So I came back to Chicago. And then I really started performing a lot more and doing theater and was nominated for several theatrical awards. And then I decided, well, maybe I'd like to produce shows because I always had a interest in history. And I wrote a show, and I thought we need to have more shows that have historical significance. So I wrote a show entitled Running with the Eight Ball, which was about the history of Black Chicago told to two kids who were contemplating dropping out of school. And the story was took place in a pool room over a game of pool. And the main piece of that was that life is a challenge, and you can compare your challenges to the challenge ball in eight ball, which is the eight ball. And if you don't call the right pocket, you lose. And the same thing is in life. If you don't make the right choices, you lose. So anyway, in that show, I had a segment on the Club de Lisa, which was, I guess you might call it Chicago's Cotton Club, so to speak. And it became so popular that people were coming, mainly adults, to see the Club de Lisa, the de Lisa portion. So I thought, oh, maybe I should write a show on the de Lisa. So I started doing that, got permission from the family to use the name. And when I really started researching it, I found that there wasn't that much on Dinah Washington. And I became very interested in Dinah Washington, so much so that I met her family. I traveled to New York, to California, every place, Detroit, to meet people who knew her to shape my story. And the show was going to be called Dinah and Her Music. Well, by this time, I had become so passionate about Dinah Washington, people would run when they saw me coming. Here she comes again. But I started to look for someone to play the role of Dinah. And I finally found a young lady. And I was so passionate. I admit I was probably over passionate about how she should play this role and how she should do the music. And she just looked at me and said, I don't care about all of that. I just want to know how much you're going to pay me and what songs I'm going to sing. And I got so angry because I thought that's no attitude to have if you're doing a story about a woman as great as Dinah Washington and no one else had done anything. So I just snatched my script and said, I'll do it myself. And on the spur of the moment, Sasha Sing Dinah was born. And it was a big success here in Chicago. Ran for 18 months here, and then we went off Broadway with the show for 9 months. And then the mayor at that time, Harold Washington, was congressman, and he was running for mayor. And while the producer of the show was Woody King. So he had actually come to the closing night of Sasha Sing Dinah and asked me to go to New York. And so he needed time to raise the money. During that time, I worked in the campaign, and Harold and I were friends. And this is Chicago, and it was such an exciting time because it seemed that for once all Chicago was on one accord to get Harold Washington into City Hall. And so I worked on various committees and with a group called the Artists for Washington. which was really kind of unbelievable that entertainers donated their time, their talent to the campaign so that we would have more money to give the campaign. So entertainment fees were not something that you had to pay, regardless of how big the event was. And that and entertainment always helps to sell tickets. And so I did Artists for Washington. I was planning, then I went to New York to do my show, came back at the request of the mayor to do a fundraiser, and then the show closed, and I stayed in I came back to Chicago at the request of my aunt, and it was during that time that I made a suggestion to the mayor to do an event for Dr. King's birthday, because he was the Illinois was the first state to make Dr. King's birthday, recognize it as a provisional holiday. And I said, well, Mayor, you should get a jump on the nation. And because that following year it would have been a national holiday, and do something real big. So he said, okay, but you have to do it. So I thought, I'm going back to New York. He said, not if it's going to be a Dr. King event. So I stayed and I produced the event, which included the Dr. King Interfaith Breakfast, which is still going on today, and a event with the afternoon session with the gangs. We had Stevie Wonder come in, Oprah Winfrey and Stevie Wonder talked to the gangs. All of the gangs came together, which was unbelievable. And I don't think it will ever happen again. And talked about nonviolence and the importance of peace and how Dr. King related to that. And so as I was closing out that event, on my way back to New York, I had my final, what I thought was going to be my final meeting with the mayor. And in between that time, a gentleman came in the office by the name of Ranson Boykin, who worked for the governor's office for the Illinois Arts Council. And he wanted to get Thomas Dorsey the governor's award for the arts. But they were giving him a hard time. And he said, well, I think a letter from you and a letter from the mayor recommending him for this award will help. So I wrote the letters. He came back a couple of weeks later and said, Dorsey's going to get the award. So when I met with the mayor, I said to him, you know, Mayor, Governor Thompson is going to honor Professor Thomas Dorsey with the governor's award for the arts. And he said, well, that's nice. I said, well, I know you're going to do something bigger. I know you're not going to let the state of Illinois honor Professor Dorsey and you don't do something. And he said, what should I do? I said, do a gospel festival. Call it the Dorsey Gospel Festival. And he said, well, do you think you can do it that quick? I said, I can't do it at all. I'm going back to New York. He said, not if it's going to be a gospel festival. And so I said, okay, I'll stay and do the first year. And now it's 35 years later and I'm still here. But it became, during that time, we were in at the South Shore Country Club under a new program that the mayor had established called the Neighborhood Festivals Program. Well, we outgrew the park in 2 years. The first year we had 30,000 people. The second year we had 40,000 people. And the mayor said, you've got to move this. And we moved to Grant Park. We became a major city festival. And the third year, with 1987, I started bringing in artists that were not just gospel, but who were rooted in gospel, who gospel people would like Clifton Davis, like Billy Preston, like Linda Hopkins. And this is Clifton Davis singing in the rain. It was 60,000 people out there. And we became international. I brought in a black choir from London, the Angelic Voice Choir of London, England. We had choirs from Africa. We had a major sponsor. Of course, that money helps. And in the fifth year, which was my last year producing the festival, we had 100,000 people for 2 days in Grant Park. And we were the largest gospel festival in the world. We developed a relationship with the BBC. We were on the BBC sent a crew over to tape portions of the festival for later broadcasts. We were broadcast live on National Public Radio, and it was just a great event, a great opportunity for the gospel community. I was able to bring in all of the gospel greats. And where can you go and see Albertina, the Al Green, the Barrett sisters, the uh, Andre Crouch, all of the main artists at that time for no money. Our press reception for the last year was televised on BET as a Bobby Jones gospel show. So we actually continued to cement Chicago as the home of gospel music. Some of the largest, best gospel artists in the world made their home here in Chicago, and the largest gospel festival. And now this year it celebrates 35 years. So that's the story,
Wow.
you know. Yeah,
That's
Wow.
it.
but it wasn't an easy road for me because the I wasn't necessarily attached to the religious community. They knew me, but they knew me as a jazz singer, and now I'm doing gospel. And there were some ministers that would call City Hall and tell the mayor to get that. Can I say what they said?
Sure.
Get that
Wait, 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 wait,
Mexican
wait,
helper
wait.
out of City
Oh,
Hall.
wait a minute.
And so,
Get
yeah,
that
I
help.
had a hard time. I had a hard time. But people say, well, you did such a great job. I led the festival. It was, of course, it was my brainchild, but I patterned making that festival a success off of everything I learned with the Harold Washington campaign because we had committees who did things. We had every type of committee you could think of, from bartenders to Washington to gentlemen and the ladies of the evening for Washington. We had everyone was involved, even Republicans for Washington.
Mhm.
And so when I knew that I had to do this gospel festival, I went and got some of the same people that had worked in the campaign because the campaign was not really a campaign. It was a movement. It
Mhm.
was a movement to make Harold Washington mayor. And I wanted the same energy for the Gospel Festival to make that festival a tribute to Thomas Dorsey as a movement to honor the father of gospel music and the mayor of Chicago, the first black mayor who dared to do a gospel festival while he was in the midst of political problems with the group of aldermen that call themselves the Badoliak 29 that opposed everything he did. That certainly they could have come along and said separation of church and state, you're selling religion. But I made sure that didn't happen, that didn't become an issue. And I needed I needed a ministers committee, I needed talent. I needed people who knew how to handle hospitality. I went to Lois Steen. I, I got some of the same leadership that was working on the campaign to do to work with me in helping to make this gospel festival a movement for gospel music, for the city, for the mayor, and for Professor Dorsey. Now, in the third year, we had to change the name of the festival because the mayor said you can no longer stay as a neighborhood festival. You got to become a major festival. And of course, the city's policy was you could not have the name of a person or corporation. It had to be Chicago Blues, Chicago Gospel, Chicago Jazz. So we became the Chicago Gospel Festival. Some years later, music was added to the name. So it's the Chicago Gospel Music Festival. That has been consistent. We missed 1 year, and that was last year because of the pandemic. So, yeah.
Wow. And that's truly, truly amazing that it has been going on. I think I attended it once.
Mhm.
And I know even now there are so many people who are very grateful to you because of that gospel festival.
We
Now,
launched a lot of careers. We launched. I remember, and I write about it in my book, that I had all of the talent confirmed, and I got a call from this agent, and he said, and I had worked with him before, and he said, Sasha, you got to help me out. I got this little brother and sister act, and I got to get them some work. And I said, well, I don't have any more money, and I'd love to help you. And he just went on and on about why he had to get this duo on the festival. So I said to him, and we had a good relationship. I said, well, okay, let me see what I can do. I can give you this. I said, it's not very much. And he was so happy. And I said, well, does this group have a name? You never told me their name. He said, BB and CC Winans.
oh,
That was their first major Chicago appearance.
Yes.
wow.
Yes. So
It was
so
a lot. It was a lot
we
of
did a
first for us.
lot of creative things with the festival to also help to boost the attendance, and it worked.
Wow, and it's still working.
Working.
Yeah, it's still working. Now, I know it's this weekend here in Chicago, and it starts tomorrow, September 3rd, and it's in, well, they used to call it Grant Park, but think now it's called Millennium Park.
Yes,
And,
that's the new park with
oh,
the new
okay.
dome. Yes, it
Right.
Oh,
moved.
that's right, because Grant Park is one place, well,
Place.
not
Right.
that far away, but then
Right.
Millennium Park has that big sculpture,
Right,
that
right, right.
dome. Like, so this year it's in Millennium Park. Well, that's great too, because yeah, I Millennium Park is a really, really very nice park. And someone is receiving some recognition and award. Who is that, Lord Steen?
That's my girl Sasha. She's going to be honored by the City of Chicago and Chicago Park District, and it's just amazing that we as we go along through everything that we do in life, we don't know what the things that we're doing at the time, what the significance is going to be for the future. So here we are, 35 years later, talking about the Gospel Fest and an award for Sasha, and how long, and the fact that it's still going on and it's only missed 1 year. And for me just to sit here in this chair and to even be talking to you and to Sasha about the Gospel Fest, I was with her for the very first one. And I can remember how we sweated and slaved to make sure that this happened. Because not only was it a Gospel Fest on that Saturday, because we were honoring Tommy Dorsey, Dr. Dorsey, and what was the other lady, the
The
gospel
mother
singer?
Sally Martin.
Mother Sally Martin. See, we were honoring two Chicago icons right on that Friday night. And it was hot and it was humid and people were scammering trying to get in, and we were trying to make sure that everything was done on Friday night so that we could get home and get ready for Saturday. And never in our lives would we have thought of how that first festival turned out, and with thousands of people trying to come down 71st Street to get to the South Shore Country Club to get in for the Gospel Fest.
You know
And I
what?
was,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, I was just saying we had and Sasha, she put me in charge of the VIP unit, and I had all of these volunteers. That we were volunteers, and we were in charge of the VIP unit. And honey, all of that went to pot. And I remember that Kentucky Fried Chicken was the sponsor, and they gave us I want to say, to feed my volunteers, they gave us 50 meals, and they found out about those 50 meals in thousands of people. Oh my God. So I have a letter right now that I wrote to Sasha. We talk apologizing because the volunteers didn't get to eat, and how the fire was mad. And and Sasha, when she started writing this book, because I've been working with her for the last 3 or 4 years trying to get all the details together. When she started writing, I said, well, I got a picture and I got a book. She's like, you got that kind of stuff? So I started pulling out stuff and sending it to her, and we got some firsts. We have some things that nobody else has that derive from their very first Gospel Fest. So it was just amazing to help put it together, and amazing that she's going to be honored tomorrow. I'm so happy for her and proud of her.
Thank you. I'd like to add just a little something. We put together a choir, 125 voice choir, to sing Dorsey's music. Uh, and they marched in the park. We were at rehearsal one night, and they were rehearsing a song, It's a Highway to Heaven. And I could envision a choir marching down a road to heaven. I said, oh, that could be Lakeshore Drive. And so Lakeshore Drive, for those of you that don't know, is a major thoroughfare in Chicago. And it had never been closed. But it never occurred to us that we couldn't close it. Why? Because Harold Washington was the mayor, and we thought we could do anything. And we closed Lakeshore Drive. And we have
With no permission.
marching down Lakeshore Drive singing Professor Dorsey's songs as they entered the park. So there were a lot of beautiful things that happened, and beautiful people that were recognized. More important, beautiful people that worked. Had it not been for Reverend Clay Evans, he put together a ministers committee. And so it's kind of hard to complain about a person that Reverend Evans says is all right. Reverend Evans stuck with me with that festival from the day it started until the day I left. What a great man. And he wrote the foreword for my book. And I'm so grateful that before he made his transition, I had a chance to go out to his house and read to him everything that I said about him. And he said his favorite special words, my. And then he said, full speed ahead. And Reverend Evans is known for that.
Wow.
My, full speed ahead. So
Wow.
it's been a wonderful opportunity for me, even though along the way, I stopped singing as much and performing as much. But there were so many other blessings, and I am just very grateful that the city is going to honor me tomorrow. And that, more importantly, that the festival is still continuing.
That is amazing. Now, for some people who I have audiences that are not in the United States, and so when you talk about Thomas Dorsey, just for people who are not familiar with gospel music, what is his most famous song that I know everybody knows?
Precious Lord, take my hand.
Yes.
Lead me on, let me stand.
Yes.
That is his, but Professor Dorsey wrote over 1,000 gospel songs, but I would say that certainly is his signature song. And a lot of people don't realize that before Professor Dorsey gave his life to God as a Christian musician, because he was always a Christian man, he was the musical director for Ma Rainey.
For Ma Rainey?
For Ma Rainey, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Now, I got to go back to now, Ma Rainey, that was way.
Well, yeah, and I think probably, I don't know what year he was born in, but I'm sure Professor Dorsey would be over 100 years old if he was still alive.
Yes,
because he was known as Georgia Tom.
Right.
Georgia Tom, music director for Ma Rainey. So, and then he became a world-renowned gospel songwriter and musician, and he really opened the doors for gospel music to come into the mainstream. So it was at that time.
Wow. Well,
yes, Thomas Dorsey was born in 1899.
Wow.
I know he was born in Villa Rica, Georgia, I think it was, but yeah.
And when she did the first gospel film, before, like she said, when Governor Thompson was going to give him an award, we really had thought that he was deceased. We knew that he had lived in Chicago, but we thought that he was deceased.
I sure did. When the guy came to me and said, I want you to write a letter for Thomas Dorsey to get the governor's award, I said, he's still alive? And, I knew who he was, but, Professor Dorsey was up in age and not real active, and I wasn't that involved in gospel music, so I just didn't know but I knew who he was, and I knew that he deserved to be honored for what he did. And it was on the basis of that that I wrote that letter,
Okay.
and wrote one for the mayor. So, and then said he's got to have a festival. He's got to be honored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I got to take a quick commercial break. And there are some questions that came in. And so I'm going to ask you some questions that some members of the audience, there are a couple of things that they want to know.
Okay.
Okay. So we will be right back. And I am so happy that your relationship with your daughter has improved. Wow, we are back. This has really been amazing. But what I wanted to say to you, if you would like to be a guest on the show, then just email me at relationshipmatterstv@gmail.com. That's relationshipmatterstv@gmail.com. And if you would like to have a video, which of course you've seen, brain fog, right? Have some advertising or sponsorship that you would like to have appear on this show, then this who is doing all of our programs. So now, if you would like an eye-catching video made for you or your business, you can still contact me at relationshipmatterstv@gmail.com, and I will forward it to Mr. Kevin Lowe, our videographer. Now, let's bring Sasha and Miss Loisteen back. So now the first question I have here that came through, it says, oh, what I wanted to say too, before I go to the questions, viewers who are out there, let us know, let Sasha know, let Miss Loisteen know that you are on. Just say hello, say hi, say I'm enjoying the show, say whatever. So, because I know a lot of you all are out there, I can see the numbers, but I don't know who. We don't know who. We want to know who. So just say hi. All righty. Now, the first question I have here is, in 35 years, this is to you, Sasha. In 35 years, was there a particular festival that sold out besides Harold Washington's election year? So was there one that was like really, really larger than what you've told us?
She's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay. The largest festival that in the history of the Chicago Gospel Music Festivals was 1989 in Grant Park, when we had 100,000 people a day. There were so many people that the police had to place barricades to prevent anyone else from coming in. That was the largest festival. That was the year too that we were broadcast by the BBC. And every year after 87, we had a London group come in. But that was the largest. To answer the question, that was the largest festival, yes.
Okay, so now with your book Unplugged, it says some of the untold secrets. Can we have a couple of them? Wait a minute.
Let me tell you.
Wait,
let me say this.
Wait, Sasha. Like you give a little tidbit because we want people to run out and buy this book.
Well, there are some tidbits. In fact, someone called me and said, Sasha, I can read between the lines. Some things you're not saying. Yes, there's some things, and there's some things that I didn't mention on purpose, but I did not give the name of the minister who started the group.
Now, wasn't it a boycott? Wasn't it Sasha? Wasn't it a boycott or something like that of the festival?
I was not doing it then, but yes, there was.
Okay.
I don't know that there was a boycott, but I do understand that there was a problem because people were proselytizing. And so they wanted, as I understand it, I was not in charge then. And of course, that is not anything negative to the producer as much as it is the artists not being under my control. No, I'm just kidding. But I made it very clear: no proselytizing, no asking people if they belong to church, do they love the Lord, because this was a city-sponsored festival. So as a result of that problem, the city did call me and ask me why didn't I ever have that problem. And I told them because I gave them strict, directions. Gospel people, you have to tell them. We're used to saying, "Who out there loves the Lord?" And but this was the city, and you couldn't do that. So as a result of that incident, and I don't remember what year it happened, they added music to the title. So that's why it is now called the Chicago Gospel Music Festival.
Okay, so that's why they changed the name then.
Right, but that didn't happen under my watch.
Okay. So, out of all the different, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Out of all the different, and it's not my questions, question that came in.
Okay.
Out of all the different artists that you booked, who was your favorite?
Oh my God, that is not a. I think they all were my favorites. I grew to love them all. I think that one of the things that we did that had never been done before, but was done a lot afterwards, was to bring in the entire Winans family. So for
Oh,
the first time, BB and CC, the Winans brothers, and Vicky were on the festival, and they actually closed it out the last year. The entire Winans family. I don't think that I could say one was my favorite. My all-time favorite person, whom I love and adore, and just think we need to do more for and keeping her memory alive, is Albertina Walker.
okay.
The
Okay.
talent committee was not comprised of people who were entertainers, who had anything to do with the gospel music industry, but people whose opinion I would respect and who had the respect of the community. And
Oh,
in helping to select and identify the gospel artists, Albertina was the exception. And I remember the year that Michael Shaw, who was music director at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, suggested that we have a reunion of the Caravans. But I had a rule that no artist could appear twice, in 2 years in a row. And Albertina had been on the previous year. And I don't know, for those of you out there who know Albertina, you know how she talked. She said, "Well, I think the reunion of the Caravans is good, but I was on last year and ain't no Caravans without me." And so, because she was the leader of the Caravans at one point, and one of their biggest points. So the committee, I put it out to the committee, what do you want to do? And they said, let her do it. And so that was the time we brought all of the Caravans back together.
okay. And now here's a question for Lord Singing. It says, can you tell us something about Harold Washington that we may not know?
I don't know what they know.
That was a good answer, Lois.
Wait, that was a political answer.
He was a gentle giant, and he actually, after the re-election campaign, I was told that he asked what did I want, and I wanted him to perform our wedding ceremony, and he agreed. There was a mishap on his scheduling on that day, and he couldn't do it. That broke my heart, but he couldn't do it. But that's what I was asked, and that's what I wanted. And so he wasn't able to do it. But Reverend A. Patterson Jackson, the late A. Patterson Jackson, stepped up and he did it.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know
You
what?
know what I'd like to add to that? I'd like to add something that people may not know about the mayor, is he was fair. And he listened. And if you went to the mayor, I mean, the Gospel Festival is a perfect example. If you went to him with an idea or a suggestion or a need, you did not need to think that he didn't hear you. and he would try to make it happen. And he said in his remarks when he was elected that night, that crazy night when Jane Byrne had all of our cars towed. But he said, even those of you that didn't vote for me, I will be your mayor. And he was. He kept his word. If you said to him, Mayor Washington, I think such and such is a good idea, he put somebody on it to try to make it happen. A lot of people may not know that. And some people may not realize that some of the ideas that someone in that audience brought to him while they were shaking his hand, he didn't forget it. And if it was worthy, he made it happen.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. And actually he was taken from us too soon.
I
But
see all of the people that are sending us kudos, Sasha.
yeah.
Oh,
Sasha's watching, she putting on a
I
glass.
have to put my glasses on 'cause I'm
Like,
trying to read what they're saying, but I can't see
like
the little print, so I put my glasses on so I can see it.
But
see, yes.
Sasha, this one says, so nice to see you all. Wonderful discussion thus far. Excited to be an Outgill alum participant. God bless you. And this was from Gwendolyn Sharon Penninger. And
Yes.
Lolita Thomas says, hey ladies, thank you for sharing this history. I enjoy Gospel Fest every year. Missed last year. Awesome.
Black man.
She
Well,
put a
don't
gun.
miss this year, not because they're just honoring me, but because this is the first year after the pandemic. And so it's scaled down a little, for many purposes. And it's only from 5:30 to 8:30. But they are going to also recognize in music some of Chicago's legendary pastors.
Oh,
And so we should just come and support it. Support is in direct proportion to keeping. And if people don't come, they don't think it's important. And thank God people have come for 35 years. Grab your friends and tell them to come and support the festival. And so that it continues every year after this. Some year will, in 4 years, we'll be celebrating the 40th Chicago Gospel Music Festival.
and the weather is going to be beautiful.
Yes.
Yes, it's not going to be hot and humid. It's going to be the I think the temperature tomorrow evening. Now, is it? It's just this one day. It's just
It's
tomorrow.
just one day for 3 hours from 5:30 to 8:30. And
Okay.
I'm going to dare to make this announcement. I have had several book signings of my book, Unplugged, The Untold Story of the Chicago Gospel Music Festival. There's some tidbits in there, but I sold out. And so tomorrow, I was looking forward to selling books, but I don't have any more. But I am saying that you can order your book in advance, and because it's the Gospel Festival, there will be a generous discount for everyone
Oh,
who orders their book. Yes.
and so now, where else can we get your book?
You have to get it on my website. And starting Monday, it's available at unpluggedthebook.com.
Okay, so let me put this in here so they can see. Unplug
Plug the book.
the book.com.
Yes, it's not available on Amazon at this time, but maybe in the future, after I make my money back, it will be. But I'm self-publishing. This has been a labor of love and my own finances. So Amazon takes a little bit too much of your money for me, and I just believe that people will support me. So I am looking forward to selling my books for a while on my own website, and they will be available in stores in the city and in stores nationally. My team is working on that. But for now, go to unpluggedthebook.com starting on Monday. and you can place your order. And if you come to the Gospel Festival tomorrow and pre-order your book, you will get a discount.
Wow. Sasha and Loisting. We only got like 2 minutes. The time just really, really flies, but I want to thank both of you all for coming on. I am going to get your book, definitely. And audience, get that book. Especially if you live here in Chicago or have lived in Chicago, because this is historical. This is something I knew nothing about. Who started the who founded the Chicago Gospel Festival? You, Sasha, you are an icon. You are.
Thank you. But can I just add one thing real quickly?
Yes, ma'am. Quick.
It's a book about the history of the Gospel Festival. It's a book that has a lot of history about Hero Washington. But more importantly, it's a book about how to follow the direction that God leads you.
Yes.
And that it is a book of faith. My mother came to my opening night of Sasha Sing Dinah, and she said to me, I can see it. This show is going to be great for you. My mother went home that night and her house burned down.
Oh.
Those were the last words I ever heard my mother speak. I thought she was referring to the Dinah Washington show. But God was giving her a message for me to follow his path. And that was what would do great things for me. A ministry in gospel music that is going to be beneficial to thousands of people. Gospel music is the word of God in song. And so many people have been blessed just coming to the Gospel Festival, just finding Christ, although we can't say you come to find Christ, but they did. And so it's a book of faith. The last chapter in my book is follow the path God leads you down. You never know where it will take you. I never in my wildest dream thought that I would be the founder of the world's largest gospel festival. But that was the vision that God gave, the message that God gave my mother, that she gave to me, that I give to the world. Follow his path. You go down paths for a different reason, but ultimately, you're going to the path that God has for you to do his assigned work. This was his assignment for me.
Thank you so much. Those are befitting and wonderful parting words.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for being on. And Laura Sting, thank you so much for introducing me and my audience to Sasha.
Oh, thank you. I am humble. Thank you very, very much.
You
God
are
bless you. Continue this ministry. This is a ministry that you're doing. Continue this ministry.
Thank you. And I believe that. I believe that.
Yes.
I'm going to say the story one day about why I do this. So
Okay.
thank both of you all so much.
Thank you.
Have a beautifully blessed rest of your day.
Thank you so much. God bless.
This has been so amazing to me. This is so it's been enlightening. And you all, I'm going to keep that unplugthebook.com on there. I want you all to be sure and go out and get Sasha's book. So I will see you again next week for another, won't be a guest like this one, like these two, but for some other enlightening guests. And so, I'm trying to find my stuff. I've just been so like, ooh, this has been amazing. I want everyone to have a beautifully blessed rest of your day. Now, remember, there are all kinds of relationships. Relationships do matter. And there are all kinds of relationship matters. See you all again next week. Bye-bye.